Hello everyone and welcome to CEM Lesson 2. To be in this lesson you should be in Year 5 studying Block 5 and you should be ready for a non-verbal reasoning lesson. My name is Luke Lloyd and I'm your teacher right tutor today, and let's get started. So this is a lesson overview. This is what we're going to be covering today. So we're going to practice answering composite shape questions. Composite shapes are a combination of shapes, and then we'll revise the main strategies for solving 3D non-verbal reasoning questions. So briefly just run through it. We're going to talk a little bit about how we can use different styles of shapes, how we can visualize these composite shapes, how we can put them together. Then we're going to complete several series of questions from the Let's CEM Spatial Reasoning Quick Practice book. And we'll do a variety of these and then we'll talk through the answers. So the way it'll work is we'll have a little warm-up to begin with, then we'll go into an example where I'll talk about how I expect you to answer them, the kind of things I expect to see, and then finally you guys will try the questions, pause the video, and then come back to get a detailed run through of how to answer each question. Right, let's get going. So just a summary, we're going to practice composite shapes and we're going to revise the main strategies for solving them. A quick warm-up. Now, this warm-up is using isometric graph paper. And what I want you guys to be able to do is draw cubes and rectangles, draw L shapes and T shapes, and just think about the cubes that could be built to make up these shapes. And of course, I realise you're all sitting at home, I can't hand you a piece of paper. Where could you find isometric graph paper? Well, let me show you. So if I go just to my website link, this is the website here, and into Google, I just type in isometric or grid paper or graph paper. Let's do that. The first link that comes up here down the bottom, isometric graph paper, printable paper, if you click on that, it will take you to a wide range of them, and you can see there's the ones with the dots. There's one. I'm just going to click on the very first one that looks good to me. Oh, there you go. Isometrics, that one, first one. And look, there's a whole range of them. And again, you can print off any that works to you, pin it, download it for free, click download. It'll start downloading, it'll appear, and you can get graph paper that way. So I'm going to swap back to my view now. Any of these will work, but also I just want to show you, you can absolutely do this without. So if you're able to pause the video now and get someone to help you get some like graph paper, fantastic. If not, don't worry, we'll move on to the second half, which shows you how to do it without. Essentially, the same warm-up, drawing cubes. You could just do this with a blank piece of paper, although I do like the isometric graph paper because I think it really helps keep those lines crisp and clear. I want you guys to learn how to draw cubes. Take a moment, get ready, get pen and paper out. Right, and I'm going to run through how I would recommend starting. So if you've done this with me before, if you've been on one of my lessons, you'll know I always get everyone to draw cubes because it just gets the mind ready for thinking about how we can link them together. To start with, you draw the front face of your rectangle, or your square in this case. So there's my cube. I'm going to copy the same shape, but I'm going to offset it slightly. So there's my square, I'm going to do another square behind it. And these are the front face and back face. All you have to do now is link up the same corners. So top left to top left, top right to top right, bottom right to bottom right, and bottom left to bottom left. And hopefully you can see, although mine's a bit curly, it is a cube. And the reason this is really valuable is it gets you to be able to visualize it, it helps thinking about it, but you can then also start to think, well, how would I go about adding on shapes? So let's say I wanted to turn this cube, put another cube on top to turn it into a rectangle. Well, I would just extend this back face up with another square, slightly better one. The same for this. Remember, if we're doing cubes, the squares mean that all the sides are roughly the same. And again, join up the relevant corners. And hopefully you can see now I've added on another cube. And let's say I want to turn this into an L shape. Well, I'm doing green. I'm going to add out another cube. I always start from the back face that I can see because I think it makes it a little easier. Extend that out. Extend that out. And then connect up the corners that aren't connected. And now hopefully you can see I've got myself a little L. Children, I recommend spend maybe 5 minutes, not much more, having a practice. See if you can draw me an L shape, see if you can draw me a T shape, slightly harder, and then just think about the cubes that will do these shapes. If you're one of my students who've practiced before, you can be a bit exciting. And certainly after the lesson, if throughout the week you guys need a little bit of downtime, try and draw me some fantastic cube art. There's some amazing things out there that you can see what you can produce. Right guys, pause the video now, because up next I'll show you just some of the creations I've made. Right guys, welcome back. I'm going to just go on. This is what I managed to do. So on my after I just did a range. So I started with 1 cube, then I made 2, then I made 3 tall, then I wanted to see, well, what happens if it goes sideways? And once I mastered that, I tried some of the harder ones. So my L shapes, and I did one from both directions to see if I could. I've done a combination of the two. For example, here's 2 T shapes, but this L is made up of actually a 3 high cube and a 1 high cube next to each other. And this T, again, I drew the T, but I overlapped it with an L just to see how that could have been created. So guys, hopefully this is really valuable, and a bit of a warm-up just to get you thinking about how we build these composite shapes. We're going to talk in the next example about how we go about these, but I love this picture in the bottom right because it just shows really clearly how within a shape it breaks up into the things, into the key components. One thing I'm going to mention just now, because it's a nice opportunity to do so, if I'm ever faced with a question, one thing that's always really worth doing is just counting the cubes needed to make it. So for this one here, I can see that this is a 1 cube, this is a 3 cube, this would be a 2 cube, and this is a 1 cube. And I think just knowing that, labelling that, takes very little time, but it means you now know exactly what you're working with for the range of questions that we're going to see. So up next, I think we have, I did want to show you this. This is just some examples of some really cool art that you can actually produce using the isometric graph paper. Now, again, is this true revision? Not really. I wouldn't set it as homework, but I do think it's valuable and quite fun. And since I know we're all at home for a while, by all means, guys, do some art like this for us. And if you want to come by on the Facebook and I'll post some of the amazing things you've drawn using isometric graph paper, please do. I mean, I love these. I think these are really brilliant. And again, really valuable in terms of visualizing how we construct 3D shapes. By drawing them, it does actually help us practice seeing them. I think this one here, if I look, is really cool. I mean, look at the complexity they've got going on in that one. I mean, goodness, all symmetrical, still works. Amazing. So if you guys fancy doing that, please do. And it's useful, if not true revision. Right, let's move on. So we're going to start with test 1 in the Let's CEM Spatial Reasoning Quick Practice book. So take a moment, guys, to get that book out for me and turn to the correct page. We're doing pages 4 and 6, and you'll know you're in the right place because you'll end up with the example looking like this. Don't look any further than the example because we just want to talk through what I expect you guys to do and also how long we're going to have for the test. So hopefully you either paused the video and got the books out and you're now ready to crack on. First thing I'm drawn to is the fact that I have 6 minutes and 12 questions. Whenever I'm given timings, and we're going to be timing a lot more in this block because building up the speed I think is going to be the main focus, what you need to realise is, or you need to work out for me, is how long you're going to have per question. Now, they don't always work out exactly, and I don't want to add an extra question. If you've got 10, 12 questions, I don't want to turn it into 13, so I'm not going to treat this like a full-on maths question. But you should have a rough idea of roughly how long you have per question. I mean, for this one, it works quite nicely. If you have 12 questions in 6 minutes, well, you've got half as many minutes as you do questions, so you'll need to do every question half a minute. But I will just quickly write out the maths in case you're interested as to how we got there. So if you've got 6 minutes, well, in seconds, that's 6 lots of 60, which equals 360 seconds. And then if you've got 360 seconds, and you're going to divide that by the number of questions, which is 12, you end up with 30 seconds per question. Now in your exam, I wouldn't recommend getting a pen and paper out because I think that wouldn't be a good use of your actual 6 minutes. But when you first hear, okay, I've got this amount of time, you should be just thinking ahead roughly how long is that? Is it a minute? Is it 2 minutes? Is it 10 seconds per question? Because if you then find yourself going over this 30 seconds, what I want you to do is start the question you're on, leave it, try and finish, try and work through the rest of the questions, and come back to it at the end. Because one important thing to note, just because question 10 is at the bottom doesn't mean that question 10 is any harder than question 1 or 2. In fact, quite often we find some questions will be easier at the end. So you need to go through, get the easy marks first, and then come back and work out the rest. Right, coming on to this. In each question, circle the letter below that shows the set of blocks that will be combined to make the figure on the left. So what makes this figure, or which blocks rather make this figure? The important things to note, and the important things that I want to see you guys doing on your page. The first thing is just very briefly, number the blocks that you can see. So I can tell that this is a 3-length block, a 1-length block, and a 1-length block. Whether you actually write it on there or to the sides might depend on if it's very complex, you might not be able to label each one 311. But the reason I think that's so valuable is it means immediately I can see that I've got a 2 and a 2 here, I can get rid of it. I can see that I've got a 3 that's an L shape and a 3 that's an L shape, can't be that. And also I've got a 3, and although this is 2 here, because I can't split them up, and because there's no line where I've drawn this blue one, it can't be D. So, not that. So the fastest way, jot down, label, annotate, give yourself clues, as well as just labeling. I did it here. I actually wrote down 3L. The other one I would maybe say is, it was, for example, a 3T. So I might differentiate in my notes what I have or what I'm looking for. Just by doing this, it frees up brain space. It means you're not having to remember, and you can very quickly run through and eliminate answers. So guys, I would like to see as you go through this, you're labeling the cubes to size. Again, what we want is maximum impact in terms of improving our chance, but with minimum time. That's why just a quick label like this, I think that's quite quick, quite fast, quite effective. Right, children, I'm going to now pause the video here, or I'm going to ask you to pause the video. You've got 6 minutes. If you need a timer, ask Mum and Dad to help out. If not, again, I might as well go to the website link. Where is it? So here, so back to my isometric graph paper. If you need to, you can go to YouTube, which is scroll down, and I wonder if you type in 6-minute timer. 6-minute timer. Well, there you go. It comes up with one. So you can click on this link here, and that would work for you if you don't have Mum and Dad or a clock nearby that you can use. Just make sure, and I'll just play this as an example, quite a lot of these have music. So all I ask is you go here to the mute button, and then just drag that down to the bottom, because the last thing you want is to be dancing to some tunes when you should be focusing on your work. Right, let's go back to the video. So here's here. Right, guys, pause the video. 6 minutes. I nearly caught you out. When you, if for example, in the 6 minutes you don't manage to finish all the questions, so let's say you had questions 1, 2, and 3. Let's say you only got to question 2. What I ask is make some sort of indication, some sort of line to say this is where I got up to. Write the words time, but then do go on and finish it, because I would hate for anyone who's not up to time to miss out on the learning opportunity that is given by completing the question. So tell us where you got up to in terms of time, but then do go on and finish the activity before then checking your answers. And what this will let us do is give us a score out of the time. So let's say in this one you might have gotten 2 out of 3 because the time limit was up, but then you might have also gotten, with extra time, 3 out of 3. So you'll end up having 2 scores: your time limit score, but also what you were able to achieve with infinite time. So that's worth doing. Right, children, now pause the video, give it a go. You've got 6 minutes, and come back to me and we'll go through the answers together. Right, children, welcome back. Hopefully that is your 6 minutes up and you've done really well. Again, just as a reminder, do finish off all the questions. I think it's really important. We're going to jump right in. With these, I'm going to go through the questions one by one. Of course, you can. This is YouTube. Skip back and forth. So if you just need to find out what the answers are, you could always fast forward a little bit, see what I've circled as the answers. But if you didn't understand or you got something wrong, then go back and listen to the in-depth explanation. I'm not necessarily expecting you just to sit here for the full amount of time, the full hour, how long this video will be. Use it as best you can. Use it to answer the questions that you need answering. Also, I will remind you that if for whatever reason my explanation don't work, they don't quite click, you're more than welcome to come and join us in the live sessions or in the Q&As that will be going on throughout the week. And those Q&As are opportunities for you to come and ask me questions really on any work you need, and even maybe show us some of that lovely isometric paper art that you've done. So let's now carry on and start answering these questions. The first thing I'm going to do is label the shapes I can see. So I've got my 2 little one-size cubes here and here. I've got a tall one. Now, this is why it's so important, children, to have your books and not just be working on it from the video, but you can see there's a line that runs across here. So I've got a little 2 section up top, and I've also then got a 1, 2, and a 3. So I'm looking for a 2 1s, a 3, and a 2. So right away I can see 1, 2, but a 3 with curves is not going to be A. I've got a 3 with this one. If I follow that line across, I think I've probably got another 4L shape, so 4L. It's not a very clear picture, sorry, let's try again. I'm going to shrink the size of my pen, that'll make me draw finer lines. So I draw across from here. You can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 1. Not that one. Not this one. And actually, it's jumped out at me. There's my 1, 1, 2, and 3. So again, just by labelling, I'm not sure that in the exam I would necessarily write all these numbers down. It's just for clarity that when I'm talking to you guys, because you saw how I skipped C because my eyes went straight to D and I knew what I was looking for, 1, 1, 3, 2, and I saw myself 1, 1, 3, 2. So again, don't feel like you have to go through it in order when you're doing these. Speed is of the essence. If you found the correct answer, just go straight there and answer it. So looking at the next one, I've got a 3 on the top because there's that line that carries across. So I've got a 3 across there. I've got a little 2 that goes across there with that line carrying down that you can see. And then I've got a little L shape, so a little L shape 3 there. So I want a straight 3, an L shape 3, and a 2. So already I can tell A, it's not going to work, it's too many 1s. B, could it work? Yeah, I've got a 3, a 2, and a L shape 3. Looking pretty good. I'm just going to briefly glance at the rest. No, I'm happy. I found it with B. So again, that's why I'm going to stop here, move on. I'm not going to worry about these. If I finish the exam and I come back and I've not eliminated some answers, like I hadn't eliminated C and D, if I'd finished every question and I was looking for things to do, well, a really nice way to check that my answer B is correct would be by also eliminating these 2. So if I've got time, which I think is something we won't have a lot of in these exams because we have to be very quick. You could always go back and check by eliminating options. But please, if you're doing this, I don't just mean coming across and just crossing them out. Checking would mean, why isn't it C? Oh, because it's not got the L shape. Why isn't it D? Because it's got too many of these 3s. But it's not just the act of crossing it out, it's the act of thinking about it, children, that's valuable. So please make sure that that's what we're doing if you're doing it. Otherwise, it's just not worth the time. Right, next one. We have got an L shape, definitely. So this is an L, and it's an L shape that's got, really, I think, there's another one in there. So that's what it looks like. So that's a 4L shape. We've also got a 1, we've got a 2, and we've got a 3L shape. So a 4L shape, a 3L shape, and a 2L shape. Let's go through it. Well, it can't be A, can't be B, can't be C, which means now there's my 3L shape, my 2, my 1, and my 4L. So there you go, the answer is D. On to the next page. I'm going to change colour just to keep things exciting. So, change the sizing again. So we have got, on this case, we have got a T shape up top. So there's my T. We have got a 1 and a 2. So I'm actually now just going to look for this really distinct T shape, and I can see my eyes are already jumping straight to B. There's a T shape, and there's a 1 and a 2. So actually, I found it. I'm happy that works. I'm going to stop there. So that's another thing, children, you can do rather than just going through in order. If there's something that jumps out to you, something you know you're looking for, go straight for it. Right, number 5. Again, I've got that very distinctive T shape. I've got a 2, and then here, I want to know how high it is. What I will probably do is I'll continue these lines across, just so I can see, yep, that's a 1, 2, it's a 3 high line. That's another thing, kids, if you're ever not sure, if you can't quite work out how tall something is, often by sketching, by continuing the lines on, like this, it just shows you how many blocks is made up. So if you're not sure if that's a 4 or a 3, for example, they're the ones that are the hardest to spot, just by dividing it into the cubes can help a lot, which is why practicing drawing with cubes is so valuable. And then I look at A, and here's a T shape, and here's a 2 shape, so there's my 1, 2, and there's my 1, 2, 3. So I found it. A is my answer. Number 6, again, I've got an L shape, but it's a 4L. Just to be clear, the L is the shape of the cube, so there's an L on its side, just to make it really clear. So I've got a 4L, I've got a 2, but what's interesting is this line here tells me that this is not a 2, but this is actually an L shape, so it's one like this. You can see, that's the cube on the bottom there. Because this 2 can't be resting on nothing, and because there's no line where my pen is, there's no line here where the dotted line is, it's not a single cube, it's a part of the 2 here, which means we've got a 4L, a 2, and a 3L. So let's run through. I'm going to look for my 4L straight away. Well, the only one with a 4L is C, and let's just check, there's the 2, so I've got my 4L, my 2, and my 3L. So now I'm happy that C is the answer. Let's move on to the next page. Right, question 7, a little bit harder. We've got a 4L on top, so that's this one here. Then underneath to the left, this one here, this one looks to me like a 3L shape, at least that's what I can see. And then I've also got, now what's interesting, this could be a 1 cube, or this 3L and that 1 cube might be combined together to make a T shape. So I'm going to have to do a few options here, but definitely that one on top is a 1. So I'm looking for a 4L or 1, but hopefully you can see that these two here, if they combine together, they could be a T shape. So what I'm going to do is, since I'm not 100% sure, I can't say for definite that's a 1 and a 3 or a T shape, I'm going to look for the 4L and the 1 cube, and then see what else matches. So for example, number A, I've got my 4L and my 1, and I've got a T, so actually that would work. And just checking my other options, since nothing else would, it wasn't a 3L and a 1 that it first looked, it was it was the T shape, so actually A is the answer. If you're ever not sure, for example, again, just based off the picture, this could be a 3L and a 1, or it could be a T, we don't know, it's either option. We then have to use the options in the answer to decide for us, and I would recommend then starting by looking at other features that you are sure of, before relying on the ones you're not sure of. Good question, number 7, we like that. Right, number 8, we have got a 1, we have got a 2, and this one across here is a 3. So, can't be A, can't be B, can't be C, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, can be D. Well, there you go, not too bad. Let's move on to the next page and continue on. So, we've got here, number 9, let's get my pen ready. We've got a 3L. This one here, if you look again, it looks like it might be a 2, but no, I'm being really careful. On this side here, it goes back and under this shape behind. So that means this is also a 3L. And although this one could have continued down if the line here continued down, since it doesn't, since that's not there, I know that's actually another 3L. So I'm looking for a 3L, 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 and number C jumps straight out to me as being 3 of the same, although it's from slightly different angles. Looking at number 10, oh, I like number 10, nice and simple. That's a 1, that's a 1, that's a 1. So, A. And this is a great example. I did say some of the later questions can actually be easier. I think that one, I could tell you straight away what it was. By far easier than certainly number 7, for example. That was a bit harder. So this is what I mean about going through, getting the easy marks first, and then coming back to the ones that have you stumped. Right, let's just finish off the last page. So we've got questions 11s and question 12. Let's label it up. If you look at that top one, I'm going to turn my bit of paper over so I can see nice and clearly. I have got, on the top, that's a 3L. I've then got this one on the bottom is a 3L. Again, because I can see this one's going under, it's unbroken, it goes back 2, which means this one in the middle must be a 1. And that means that the answer is A. Because there's my 3L, 3L, and 1. Final one, question 12. See what I can spot. This one goes up 2 at the back, so the back one is a 2. In between there's a 1, that's all it can be. And then this one here is a 1, 2. And is it a 3? I think it is a 3. Let me see if I can draw those lines a little cleaner, a little crisper. Oh, I see what happened, that's not gone down properly. So 1, 2, 3. So that one is a 3er. So a 1, 2 and a 3er. Where can I find that? There's my 1, there's my 2, here's my 3. The answer is B. Right, children, that is that exercise done. Fantastic. What I asked you to do, give yourself a score out of 12, your full marks. But also, for those of you who didn't finish everything, and there will be some people, because these can be hard, you can get stumped. If, for example, let's say you got up to here, and this is where you had your time mark, give yourself both scores. So a score that you did based on the time. So, for example, this one, let's say you got all 10 right before this, you might give yourself, well, okay, well, I got 10 out of the 12 for time, but then afterwards, when I went back and filled it in, I then managed to get 12 out of 12 or whatever the score may be. And that means we've now got a target to aim for, something to improve based off time, but also we know that how capable we are, how much we struggle with this question as a topic. Because the danger is, some people could get 100% but work quite slowly. Well, that's actually a very nice position to be in because we know the target is to speed up. Equally, someone can be really, really fast but inaccurate. And they're very different things. So by having these two different scores, it tells us what the problem is. If this score is low, it means we're not very accurate. It means we need to practice more just generally. Whereas if this score is low, but this score is high, it just means we need to work on speeding up. And again, the best way to speed up is practice. Right, let's go on to the next activity. Right, next activity is actually a quick quiz. Take the time, guys. Pencils and jotters out. This is Spanstros. You should all understand. You should all know what this stands for. It's the way we remember the things to look out for when answering our non-verbal reasoning questions. So each of these letters stands for a word, and it's one of the things that you'll be checking, one of the variables that could change in each question. So what I suggest, pause the video here, copy this out, put your words, and I'll run through the answers. Right, I'm about to go through the answers, so if you've not done it, pause it already. Let's go through. If your S's are in different places, that's fine, as long as you have 4 different S's. So the first S is shape, P, position, A, angle, N, and my favourite as a math teacher, number. S is size, S is shading, R for rotation, O for overlap, or overlapping, and S for looking for symmetry. Right, give yourself a score out of 9, and let us know how you got on. Well done. If you've not learnt these, please add them to your to-learn list. It's really important. These are the variables you're going to look at when you're stuck on a question. These are the things you're going to analyse one by one when you're doing the more 2D shapes. It's always an important thing just to test your Spanstros and make sure it's always in there. I'm sure this will come up again next week. Right, the next activity is from Test 2. So this is the same Let's CEM spatial reasoning book. And it is just the next page. So if you finish the last, turn over the next one, and we're on to page 2. For this one, you've got 10 minutes to answer 5 questions. And what that means is you have still 30 seconds per question, but slightly less time overall. So again, get yourself a timer set up. Now, for these, they're slightly different. Obviously, it's variations on a theme. In each question, you have to circle the shape that can be combined with this first column to make the root picture. So in this case, what can we add to find this? The important thing for working out these questions is you want to almost count the empty spaces, count what's missing. So if I'm looking at my picture here, and I'm trying to end up at this, which is sort of like a steps, I know that I'm going to need 4 down here, and then 2 in the empty space above it. So I need 6 spaces above, and as you can see from B, this works. It's 1, 2, 3, and then behind it, 1, 2, 3. Now, what's interesting about this example B is although you can only see 5 cubes, you know that this one on top has to be resting on top of something. And that's really important because you'll never have anything floating in empty space that's unsupported. Right, the answer is B on this next one. If this is the base, what would I need? Well, again, we're going to sort of count the empty space. I'm going to have to put something on these 4 cubes to build up. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 1, 2. So actually, it's the same shape as the last, but in a different position. D is the answer. With these, again, counting is very important. You might also want to sketch some things in. This, again, becomes one of the drawing matters. So, for example, if you weren't sure, you might sort of be sketching in here to see what it would look like. That's the top of it. These are what the cubes would look. It can help. The danger with these, especially when you've got a lot of cubes, and you don't want to spend too much time sketching. I much prefer, jotting down numbers and anything that's going to limit you out time. So if you can just get by with counting, which is faster, please do that. Right, you have 5 minutes to complete the activity. So set the timers. Again, you can use YouTube to get a timer if you need to. Just type in 5-minute timer into YouTube, mute the sound, and that will work. And come back when you're ready for the answers. Right, children, I hope that went well. We're going to run through the answers now. So let's pick a colour. I'm going to go with red to start with. And begin. So this is the shape that we're aiming for. So for the next 5 questions, we're going to try and completing this shape. So the first one, number 1. Again, if you can never identify the part of the feature here, so this to me looks like that back wall, it's then a little easier to work out what needs to go in front. So I can see that I need to have a 2 and a 2, and that looks very much like B to me, where I've got 2 next to each other and then 2 coming out. So the answer number 1 is B. Again, counting, if I know that I'm aiming for 1, 2, 3, 4 more blocks, it means I can immediately discard all the others. So it's a combination of counting and looking for patterns that are going to get you to these answers really quickly. Right, next one. For number 2, we've got 3 coming out, 2 coming out. Now I think the only thing, we're not allowed to rotate these shapes. The only thing that matches it could be have this central one coming out, because of course we know that this cube here is resting on something. So let me just clean what I've written before. One thing to be noted, of course, if you're going to sketch things for each of the questions, be aware that you're going to have to make your sketches last for sort of 5. So I think be very, very gentle if you're going to do anything to edit this picture here. You don't have the luxury necessarily of being able to rub things out quite as clearly as I do, especially if you push hard. So I think this column has to be the one that's coming out from the base here, which means this one is this one. So now I really need pretty much everything to go on top. So I'm expecting 1 cube to be on the top of here and to loop all the way around. And that actually to me looks very much like A, because I could slot this into A and it would give me that loop round. And very much in this case, not enough space here, too big a gap. This cube would conflict with this cube. And yes, this one, it's got 1 on the top where it shouldn't have 1 on the top as there. So the answer is A. For number 3, again, it's about spotting what we've been given. So we've got 2 coming up and 2 coming out. If we look at the picture, I can see there's 2 coming up and 2 coming out. So I think we just need the background again. Very much this piece is what we're looking for. And that leads us to have C as our answer, because these pieces, the example in question 1 and C are the same. I'm going to move on to the next slide and just keep going. We're still dealing with the same shape. So again, what have I been given here? 1, 2, 3. So I've got the back piece, so I've got the full backboard, and I've got these 2 here. So I just need the 2 that are sticking out. So that's what's missing is A. Look at number 5 again. Where can I match this piece? I've got the 2 coming out, which is the only bit that's 2 coming out is here, going right the way up. So it looks as though I've got the right hand side. So now what I'm missing is these 2 pieces here, but then also this piece and the 2 pieces that must be standing on. So I'm missing a column of 3 and a column of 2, and that is A. So A is what's missing. Right, let's move on. Next set of questions, this time using a different shape. Let's have a think. So we've got one piece. What can we add this one piece to get the final answer? Slightly harder. Let's see what's missing. Obviously this piece could now be in multiple places, so I'm actually going to look at my answers and see which one's nearly there, but for one thing. So A can't be the same because this piece is in there, so I'm going to eliminate that. B can't be the piece because of that central block. It's got one there, and it's got two places missing, so here and here. C looks very close. I think in fact, I think this is my answer, because I can see that if I was to add one block on the underside here, it would match. Whereas, of course, I can't remove pieces, I can only add them, which is why, again, D, although we've got too many pieces here, it can't be D either. So, they're gone. C is my answer. Let's have a look at number 3. Again, I'm going to see, can I match this pattern to anything? Well, yes, I can. If I look, this left-hand side is going to be made up from a T shape. So what I'm missing then is this right component here. So that right bit. Can I see it? Not A, because it's got the bottom bit, which I don't want. So it's got that, so not A. But B, I think, looks spot on, because it's those 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks in an L shape with one sticking out. So the answer is B. Again, let's have a look at 8. So again, I'm going to see first off, can I match it? Yes, I can. I can see that this is the top part, so what I'm missing is the one little base leg here, that little base, which is just a one block. Right, 9 and 10. Again, I'm going to see if I can match it first and foremost. So I've got these 3 on the right-hand side, these 3 on the right-hand side, and these 2. Now what's confusing about this final block on the outside is we can't actually see it, but we know it has to be there because it's what this top piece is resting on. So I know what I'm looking for is 1 cube here, 1 cube here, 1 cube here with a space, and that's the pattern B. Now this is really important to note, and again this is what I mean about not having to rotate the shapes, because of course A, if I was to rotate that 180 degrees, it would be the same shape as B. However, B is the correct answer because we're not allowed to rotate these, we're just allowed to affix them, but not allowed to move them to rotate. Otherwise, multiple answers could potentially be correct. And again, the reason it's not D is because this cube is already being taken up by this cube here. We'd have to have that missing for D to work. Right, let's look at number 10. Very similar. So again, they've given us the majority of it. We're just missing this top piece and this piece here. So what we need to do is we have to add 2 cubes on to the front and top. So I want them again staggered like D, so I can affix those in the same orientation. Right, children, again, slightly different. With this, be very careful with how you annotate with this style of question. And again, make sure you're not falling into the trap of having cubes overlapping each other. These two, if you were to say your answer is D, you'd find that you'd have 2 cubes in the same position, so it wouldn't be able to fit together. But again, please give yourself a score out of 10 and a score for whatever you achieved in the time. So your time score and your score out of 10. Let's move on to the next activity. And this activity is actually going to be in a different book. So I need you to have a look down here for me. We're now moving on to the non-verbal reasoning practiced test pack number 2. And we're going to do practiced test 6. So please take the time to make sure you've found the correct one. You'll know you're in the right place because it will be a section on block counting, and the example will look like this on that first page. And this is really important that we end up in the same place. So by all means, pause the video if you need to. That's absolutely allowed. That means we can then go through it together. Now, while you're doing that, I'm just going to say block counting, we know, and it's only something at Teacher Eye that we know about. It's a new topic, it's not been assessed yet, however it is now one of the options they can assess. So this is very new, very much up to date. It's one of the things that we think could be on the more recent exams coming up, and this is not something that's been done in the past. In terms of how we approach the block counting, I'm going to start now, so hopefully everyone's got their books ready. Very simply, you do have to count the blocks, but the important thing to remember, of course, is it's not just the blocks you can see. So the answer is not going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It won't just be 9, because of course I know that none of these blocks can be floating. So I have to ask myself, for example, I've got 3 blocks here, but in terms of the layers, what will this be on? And I think definitely thinking of this in terms of layers is really going to help. So this block here can't be floating. How many things are underneath it? Well, there's 1 layer underneath. So although I'm at 9 currently, I'm going to have to add an additional 1, so 10. And as well as that, this block here can't be floating, so it has to be 11. So my final answer for this is 11. Now, in terms of how I recommend you go about counting these, because I think counting is the way forward, dotting the ones you can see is absolutely fine, But it might be more efficient actually just to do a little tally. So as you're counting, I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then think about the extra ones. Or if you do like dotting the shapes, which actually I must say I do as well, dot them, write a number of that you got to from the dots, and then from that number just count on. So if you know there's 9 ones that you've been able to see, then just think, okay, I need to add 2 more. I think that's what I will probably use for these next couple of examples. So again, let's go to practice number 1. Again, children, you're more than welcome to try these ones first, and then I'll go through them with you. I think that's probably the best way for these two, especially since these are quite new. These are not something you've seen before. So maybe pause the video here, have a go at practice 1 and practice 2, then we'll run through them together, and then you'll know if you got the answer right, and you'll know how confident you should be going into the next few set of questions. So pause the video, and I'm going to start going through now and do them myself. So again, I'm going to do as I said. I'm going to go say I can see 1 block, 2 block, 3 blocks, 4 blocks, 5, 6, 7, 8. But now I just have to think to myself, are there any blocks that are floating on things that I haven't seen? Well, in this case, I'm going to say no, because I know that all these blocks are the same shape, and I can see the 2 here that are extending underneath this one, so I'm actually quite confident that everything's supported, so my final answer is 8. Doing the same thing for practice test 2. These are all L-shaped blocks. I think it's really first important to spot as well what type of blocks you're counting. So they're all L-shaped, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now what I have to think about is this one here, and in fact I've been a bit naughty because I've covered a line. This one here really goes in sort of that way. This one I can just see the slightest edge on must be supporting it, so there's actually an 8th block as well. Any blocks that I've not seen, well, as long as I've spotted that there's one this top L shape is sitting on, and you can just see the corner. No, that's everything. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 again. So let's see what the answers are. Click here. The practice answer is B and E. So we've got them correct. Right, children. For this next assessment, you have got 15 minutes to do 15 questions. So I'm sure many of you can tell me that how long you'd have. 1 minute per question. These are slightly longer. There's a bit more to them. So I know you might have been rushing, but you're going to have twice as long as you did the last set of questions, so bear that in mind. Just as well, it's worth highlighting, we're doing practice test 6, only pages 3 through 6, and what that really equates to is that first section, section 1, block counting. The other thing that's to note is really you shouldn't just be circling the answers, but if you look at the very back, the last bit of paper in the booklet is actually an answer sheet. And these are the answer sheets, and I'll do a little sketch where you have your set of questions, you have A, B, and C, for example, and you have your little boxes. And if you thought, for example, the answer was B, you need to do a nice, crisp, clear line in pencil straight through. And if you make a mistake, you rub it out and reallocate it to the spot that you think is correct. And again, as well as getting used to the timings, now is definitely the time to get used to filling out these sheets. Because one, that will actually impact on your time slightly, because it's an extra step to do. So we really need to start practicing that now, because we're going to get a true, accurate measure of how quickly we're progressing and how close we are to being exam ready. This is a part of the exam, so it's really key to get that done. So I would suggest pause the video now, make sure you've got everything set out in front of you, so make sure you found Test 6, Section 1, make sure you found the answer booklet sheet, and the answer booklet sheet actually applies to all tests. So you might have to flick through and turn to the correct page within that booklet, and make sure you're at Section 1, and again, make sure, maybe you want to look at the first page, for example, here we got question 1, make sure that matches, 5 options for your answer, and you can check that the answers are the same. Right, for this 15 minutes, 15 mins, so again, get a timer ready, go on to YouTube, type in 15-minute timer, and when you're ready, start the clock, and then come back here for an in-depth run through. Right, off you go, see you. Right, so welcome back. I'm going to start going through some of these questions now. To note, I'll sort of highlight a few different ways that you can actually go about labelling these. So if we look at question 1, on this question, I'm actually going to label the top of each column with the number of blocks, because that'll make the maths a bit easier for me. So I can see this is a 4-block tall column. This is a 2-block tall column. The one next to it, although I can only see 1, must be resting on something, so that's another 2-block column. another 2 block column, another 2 block column, and then 2 ones. And then that leaves me with a comparatively small task of just adding this up. And the way I would go about doing it is 2 and 2, 4, 2 and 2, 4, plus 2, 10, getting us to 14 as my final answer. So we have A. For this one, I think similarly, I'm actually going to label the top. So I'm going to say 1, 1, 1. This is a 2, a 2, a 2. And then we're left with a final third one up here. And then because these are columns, it's quite easy. It's quite easy to count the blocks. I know that if this is up here, there must be 3 layers beneath it. And that's what I meant by terms of thinking in terms of how many layers are on what layer we're counting. So again now, add my ones together, and that gives me a total of 3. I've then got 3 and 3, 6, and then 6 plus 3 2s is another 6. So that gets me to 12. Again, in terms of addition, the best tip I can give you is just aim for 10s. So you might do 3 and 3 plus these 2 to get to 10, plus this one to get to 12. On this next one, I think actually I'm probably just going to start dotting the single ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I might just write down 5. I've also then got 6 and 7. And I can see here, look, there's nothing underneath these two. They're on a separate level, so that's fine. So I can now just do add 7, or write 7, keeping a running track. Then I've got 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, but this is on another level above it. I can't presume there's nothing beneath because it shows me, so this is a 3. So to my 7, I'm going to add the 3 to get 10, and then the 2s to get 16. So my answer is 16. So in that, it's a combination of dotting to get a number, and then adding the numbers and constants, kind of combination of the 2 methods, 2 ways how to go about labeling these shapes. Right, let's carry on. So number 4, slightly harder. I think on this one, it's not going to be a case of me numbering the number of dots as such, because if you look, the orientation of my blocks is changing. They're not cubes, not the same in all directions. So I think I'm actually just going to count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I've labelled everything that I can see at 11, but I have to just stop there and think about what things could be resting on. Now this one is obviously fine, these 2 are fine, and these 2 are fine. But I have to ask, what will this block be sitting on? So that's an additional block, so that becomes 12. Also, what this one is sitting on, will I can actually see it? These 3, they must be sitting on another layer, because if I follow this layer around, this one, which is above it, has sitting on something, so there has to be another block underneath this column back here. So that then leads us to 13. So 13 is my final answer. Just one last check, nothing I've forgotten. I've done the one that this block is sitting on, the one that this block is sitting on, and I think that's all. So 13. Right, number 5, I'm going to do a similar thing. I think for this one I might just do that as a tower, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I'll just jot down 11 so I don't forget. But I have to think about now, what might I not be seeing? Well, since I know all the blocks are the same, that's not a half-size block, there's going down, so that doesn't need to be sitting on anything. But this block here, the one with the star, that does need to be sitting on something. So there has to be a 12th block on its side. So we're up to 12. Nothing else? No, I think not. 12. My final answer. Right, I'm going to press on. Question 6. Similarly, let's see what I can label. Well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one here, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm going to write down 11 so I don't forget it. But now I have to start thinking about what things are sitting on. Well, this one is sitting on that, so that's fine. These front ones are fine. These 2 here, they actually will only go back sort of this far. To sketch that side panel, which means there's room at the back to slot in another block, and that's actually the other block that this half we're sitting on. So I know there's at least one more block, behind these 2. And I also know that if these are 3 wide, 1, 2, 3, this middle one, I can see this one, and I can see this one, but the middle block that matches another one, so I need to add on another block on the back and another block underneath. So that takes me to 12, 13. Let's just think, is there anything else that I could be missing? I can see the ones on either side. I've talked about the base. So if I go by my layers, the base layer I've accounted for an extra 1. The middle layer, there's another 1. And the top layer is fine. So nope, 13 is my final answer. Right, number 7, similar process. The ones I can see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, these ones, as I can see, all the blocks are the same. These are placed vertically, all except for this one. And that means I suspect that this block has to be sitting on another block of the same size. So there's another hidden block hiding underneath this one here of the same orientation to give it that height, otherwise it wouldn't be the same height as these ones. But I think everything else is accounted for. So 10. I like these questions. Number 8. I'm going to start doing the same trick as before, label everything I can see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there are 12 that I can see straight off the bat. Let's think. I'm happy with this row. I'm happy with this row. These are fine with. But this one in the middle, I know it has to be sitting on several things. And if it's in the same orientation... well, first actually I'm going to think, how far do these extend? Because is this block sitting on that block? And I think it might be, because I can see that's too long. It's not going horizontally. So if that one extends out, it will cover the right half, but it means we're going to need another 2 of these to act as the base for these blocks here. So I think there's going to be an additional 2 hiding under there. So that becomes 14. Anything else? No, I'm happy this could stand. I'm happy that could be resting on the 2 plus 2 we've already given. And same for that one. So my final answer is 14 blocks. Number 9. Same trick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we've got 10 that we can see. Let's start thinking out what needs to be sitting on. But if this one is going in that direction, we'd need to fit, and these are the same height as that. In order for this whole row to be at that height, we need to have another one of these facing there, there, and kind of under there, so on the back side. So I'm expecting there to be 2 more that it's sitting on to give all of these blocks that height, because they'd extend all the way back and support this one, so we don't need more there. Right, final answer, 12. And again, these aren't taking too long. Hopefully you can see I'm being methodical, I'm thinking it through, but I'm certainly not spending my minute on it, which is fantastic, because it means I have a bit of time left over to check at the end. Right, number 10. I've identified the shape, it's an L shape, so I've got 1. I actually like to mark the L shape so I know the direction. 2. This one would have to be, because I can see that there, so it's coming like this. 3. 4. This one is obviously going back and down. 5. This is going to be part of that. So 6. So where does this one point? It obviously must be going under there and under there in order to fit together. So do I need to add any new ones? No, I don't. I think it's just all the blocks I can see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. With these L shapes, I think it's really important to maybe give yourself an indication, maybe by adding arrows if you like, about which one is pointing in which direction, because it just helps you then keep track of what's gone where. I think working out where this point is going, in which direction, whether it's going up or down, is particularly important. And we know, for example, that these two can't be paired because this extends in that direction, and all the blocks are just basic L shapes and not twisted. Good question, I like number 10. Right, number 11. So let's start doing the same process. Identify the shape. This is an L shape, and I'm going to start putting them on. So we have 1 here, another going in here, the 2 going in and up, This one goes back and forth. In order to get this single square, I know it needs to go back in and under. So going back in and to the left. And that means that one is the one that's sitting on top. Now I do need to think that last little one there, that probably means it's dropping down and across. So that one will look like this and that going underneath. So let's just count. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 shapes for number 11. Again, difficult. I think identifying the ones on the outside that are easy to spot, and then leave yourself thinking what could be underneath, what combination, or how many do I need to add on to attach to the bits that I can see. Really important. And again, understanding that they're all identical. So once I've identified this one, for example, as an L shape, I know that they're all L shapes. Right, number 12. What is the shape? That to me looks like it is just a 2-high cube, or 2 cubes coming together to make a rectangle. Let's start counting them. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one has to go under, so it could be going left or right. Let me think about which way we need to go. Well, if it goes left and supports that one, that means I need another one under here, but I'll think about that later. And these two are going down. In terms of height, am I happy that they have to be on something? Well, they will, because if you look, that one's coming up, I've presumed, which means we know there's at least, that's level 1, that's level 2, so that's level 3, which means these two have to be sitting on something. So let's just go through and do a count again, and then work out what about the support. So in terms of ones I can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then we go through and work out what I must be sitting on. That one's going under. This one needs to be supported, so that's another one we're going to add, so that becomes 10. And both of these are higher than this one by 1 block, so they could be sitting on 1 block going horizontally to go 11. So I think that makes 11 for this one. It's the minimum number of cubes needed to get this picture. Number 13, what are we dealing with? Again, we're dealing with 2 blocks, so let's start going through. Well, that's 1 going under there, 2, that one going under there, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But this is giving it away. If we have another one there going underneath to about that, we'll need another one. So we have to add one more. So just do it on the count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 that I can see. But in terms of what needs to support it, there has to be another one, similar position to this, but right at the back, running to support these two. Bring us to 14. And in terms of this block is supported by one going that way and one going that way. Right, 14. Last 2 questions now. Let's go through them the same way as before. Again, I can identify the pattern is that 2 block. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, going in that way, 6, 7, 8, has to go in that way, 9, 10. So 10 that I can see. I don't know if you noticed, but the way I've been drawing these lines is to sort of give myself a clue as to the orientation. So they're going across the longest side. So if it's pointing in, I kind of draw an arrow that way to imply that it's going in that direction. And that means when I then look back at it, I can sort of, if I've discovered, if I've worked out that the orientation that it's facing, I've kind of made a note of that for myself. So there are 10 that I can see. What about things that need support? Well, I can see these are all fine. That one there is going back, that's no problem. But this one here is going to need an equivalent block to support it. So I think there's got to be another one just underneath there. But I wonder, is that going to be high enough? Possibly not, because I know these blocks are too high. And in terms of my layers, that's layer 1. This height will be layer 2. This height will be layer 3. And then that top block is layer 4. So this one is going to need something underneath it to support it. So I think there's another block as well. So let's just go through. We'll just say there's one on the back left. I'll do it in a different colour. There's one under here that's horizontal, like that. To pair with this one here. To pair with that block. Not my best drawing, but to pair with that one. So that means we're going to need, if they're two sitting like this, we're going to need another one underneath them both to get the height necessary. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, plus 11, 12. So 12 is my final answer for number 14. B. Let's go back to green. Last one, number 15 again. I'm dealing with these 2 cubes. So we got 1, 2. Right, not 1, 2, but 1, 2, 3, 4 going under there, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 outright that I can see. Am I happy that this one is? Yes, sitting on that. Happy with these 2. This one going across is going to need at least one more underneath it. So we can add 11. You know, there's another equivalent one under there. That's 11. That's supported. This one, I can see that it's supported by this block and this block. But I wonder, this one, is that going to extend far enough? No, because if I draw my line across, that cube ends there. So what's this second half sitting on? The quickest way, the easier way to support it, we'd have one block. So with my cube coming out like this. So we can draw it nice and clear. So extending out like this. Only half of it supported. So I need to stick another block in there underneath this one to support it. So that's 12. And there could be one behind, but we're only adding in the ones we know we need. So that's 15 is 12. Right, that's the score out of 15. Again, some of these are hard. Some of these might have taken more time. I certainly think the latter ones in this case actually did get harder. Not all of them, but certainly some of them. So again, give us a time score, so how you did within the 15 minutes, and then also produce for us a score with unlimited time so that you can work them out. So both will be out of 15, but how did you do? So time score and I guess what we call a final score. Again, some of these particularly difficult. If you found them hard, if you want more assistance, please don't forget, guys, this is not the only lesson. We'll be running live lessons throughout the week. There are 4 sessions that you'll be able to attend. And if you do miss all the live sessions, you can re-watch them. So there might be further explanation there. And as a final resort, if you really want that one-to-one support, or the best imitation of it, come down to the Q&As where we can ask, if you've got, for example, number 14, it still stumps you, come on down. Myself or Chris will be there, and we'll be more than happy to talk you through the exact process for how to answer any of these questions, or any questions that may relate to the homework or other things you're working along with. Hopefully I'll see you soon. I've mentioned the homework, so I might as well show you on the last slide. This is the homework, please. Maybe pause it here, take a note down. You can also get another copy of the homework sheet from the Teacher Right student portal. These homework videos, much in the same way that I've gone through these questions, will do the same thing for the homeworks, where we go through all the questions so you're able to mark it, as well as flashing up just the answer sheets. And of course, you're also more than welcome to use the answers that you find in the back of your books to answer these. Because we know everyone's at home, of course the you must still stands, but we'd also love it if you could complete the you could. I think that'd be very useful. Right, guys, thank you so much. Hopefully hear from you soon. Maybe see some of you in the live sessions. All the best. Bye-bye.